Vibes Radio is fostering women-centered discourse.
Good morning, Dominica. Good morning, the rest of the world.
Offering women a platform to be candid.
All of your life, you've been planning for a pandemic.
Share ideas and information relevant to our wholesome development.
My main concern was always for the people.
Join Jael Joseph and Trudy Christian on Woman2Woman every Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. as we discuss live and in living color on Digital Channel 57, Facebook, and of course, the champion station, Vibes Radio.
Welcome back. Jael, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning to all the listeners. I am doing a lot better today. Thank you. Thank you.
That's great. That's great. You know, our listeners were rooting for you to be back this morning. So I know
some of them diagnosed me and all.
I know, right? Diagnosed, sent you medical, remedies, advice, all of that stuff.
It was my voice, but it wasn't my voice. As much as people thought it was my voice, it was not my voice. Sorry to it wasn't my voice. I was just not feeling well. So,
right.
But it's good to be back. I saw you did your thing. You were awesome yesterday.
Yes. Yesterday actually was quite a good show. A lot of people, we had the women from the One Prosper Women Farmers group in action, and a lot of people were so proud of these ladies. I got a lot of feedback where people were like, these ladies were amazing. They're so proud of them and what they're doing. So yeah, it was actually a great discussion yesterday.
Those are my ladies, my One Prosper ladies. We go way back, Mabel and the rest of the gang out there in Mount Prosper. We go way back. In the early days of radio, they were some of my biggest supporters, my cheerleaders, and that really motivated me and really kept me going. And Mabel is a gem.
Right.
Give up to them and the entire women farmers in action.
Right. One Prosper Women Farmers in action. Yeah. So big up.
Yes.
It was a good interview yesterday. Jael, hey, good morning to our listeners. We haven't shouted you all out individually in your groups that you represent. So good morning to you guys, our social media listeners, our faithful Facebook followers. I see you guys logging on. I see some people already sharing the live, so that's great. That's making me very happy this morning. Our listeners on Vibes Radio, of course, our listeners on all our Vibes Radio frequencies, and our listeners on Digicel Channel 57, those taking the opportunity to watch us on TV. Good morning to you guys. Good to have all of you all with us this morning.
Yes, it's awesome to have you guys. We'll be celebrating your birthday today. Happy birthday. Today is the 6th day of August.
I mean, can you believe it's already the 6th day of August? Like, the time is just flying by. If I had gotten to go, gotten to travel, I would say, the time should slow down. But I guess because it's a stay home summer, I shouldn't be complaining that the time is the time is flying. But the time is really flying, Jill. Like
The
zoom.
time is flying, and so much is happening while the time flies. Like there was this big explosion in Beirut, so our thoughts are for to the folks. Actually, my neighbor is Lebanese, so he was looking for the better part of the day. Not knowing if his family
Was okay.
was okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, and something that has been, Dominica have a lot of those derelicts, there's a ship with ammonia that was sitting there for ammonia nitrate that was sitting there for 6 years. That's what caused the explosion. At least that's what they're saying.
Yeah,
Right?
well, in conjunction with the fire, what do you call it? The firecracker, fireworks factory that was like right there next to it. So it was like, recipe for disaster.
But 6 years, it was sitting there for 6 years,
Yeah,
right? And it's like a volcano that forms,
just
dormant.
can erupt if the right situation arises. Yeah, so yeah, crazy stuff.
Crazy.
Crazy stuff.
In other news, I got contacts. So those are really good my spectacles.
Oh,
I'm trying the colored ones. I have the clear ones.
uh-huh.
I did like one of each because you get two, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I'll try a colored one and let's see. And let me know, guys. Those of you on social media, let me know. What you think.
Jael is all up with the sexy contacts. So let Jael know what you think. I like them. I think they're pretty cool. I like them. So let Jael know. Jael wants to know what y'all think about this.
I want your honest opinions, right?
Yes.
Opinion. My regular good old eyes, but yeah, I try not to, let's see if it works.
She wants your honest opinion. Jael, we have some people telling us hi. I want to shout them out. Good morning, Tyson. Good morning, Daphne. Kimberly, always on with us. Rajiv, I see you on. Roslyn, good morning to you. You were holding down the fort with me yesterday. Will, good morning to you as well. Denise was with us too, holding down the fort. Lisa, good morning. So we have our people telling us hi. The rest of y'all say something.
You can dog me. You can still dog me. You perform blow cafe, you. They waiting to drink that little coffee water there this morning before they get started talking. Good morning, guys.
Shania says your contacts fit you very well. So you got some feedback there. Yes, Jill, like the contacts.
Mopasa, I don't know yet. I'm not even sure about even wearing them, period. Like not even the color, just wearing them because it feels like there's something in my eye.
I can't imagine that must be weird.
It is super weird. In my old age.
that must feel weird.
Yeah.
I've never wear glasses, thank God. And I always said if I had to wear glasses, like if I needed prescription glasses, I would just do glasses and not contacts because I'm always rubbing up my eye.
Oh, I don't touch my eyes at all.
I touch my eyes. Mm-hmm. I'm like literally, and I have long lashes. I'm always like pulling and put contacts. Not, I would get in trouble.
No, I don't touch my eyes, and that is because I don't touch my eyes. I wanted to get out of glasses because I found that glasses were constantly making mark on my makeup, and I was not liking it. So I was like, you know what? Can I try contacts? And they're like, yeah, well, we'll make you to try it out because like they go through this whole thing, like they make you try it out for a little bit and whatever to see if you're comfortable. They teach you how to put it on or whatever. Like I could have gone on YouTube and done all that. But anyways, I mean, I'm gonna see how it goes. I mean, it's summertime, and I feel like I didn't want to mark on my nose, on my bridge, maybe on my glasses, because I need glasses to drive. So I was like, you know what? If I can look cute, a little, whatever, why not? Right? I'll probably still wear sunglasses, but my sunglasses don't give me the mark. It's just glasses.
Glasses.
If you have those issues, let us know. If you don't like ladies, especially the ladies, that wear makeup and wear glasses, don't you just put that line on the glasses. Or if you have like thick cheeks like me, the mark of the lens is on
Hey,
your
look,
the
Jael. Look, Jael have thick cheeks. Well, Jael. Jael. Thick cheek Jael.
all my cheeks them thick.
Oh gosh, Jael, man, I was telling you, the contact suits you. The contact suits you.
I have thick cheeks. What can I say?
Girl, you are something else. Hey, Jael, we have our guest in the house. She's in the house. She's waiting. Today, of course, as usual, we're gonna have a very interesting discussion. Danielle Wilson, attorney at law, is in the house with us. She's waiting. So we're going to be dealing with some legal matters. The last time we had legal matters on the agenda, we had Joe Luke with us, and a lot of the men jail felt a little left out. They came and they were like, so women's right, women alone that have legal rights. Then women, men just feel left out. They like plenty of attention. Don't worry them, they say women like attention, but men
they like more breast milk than anything else.
Oh, miss. Yeah. One little discussion we had about women's rights, and they wanted to be in it. So we brought another attorney. We brought Danielle Wilson. She's in the house. So gentlemen, if you are listening and you want your fellow gentlemen who wanted to get some idea of their rights, in certain aspects, if you want them on, make sure you tag them, you share the live, you let them know that that's what is coming up.
You've been in the barber shop and you've probably been discussing, boy, the man woman gonna take his child from him.
Right.
So we finish, then people finish, I will and now is the time for you to tag your partner. Tag the partner from the barber shop.
You're right. Covert listeners, bus drivers, the guys in the mechanic shop that told me recently that all they listen to is Vibes Radio, Woman2Woman, 9 a.m. They locked.
The people on the port, the customs officers, oh my God. Yeah. Always say that they listen. So big up to you.
Right. So tell a friend to tell a friend. We're going to have a very interesting discussion. Gentlemen, it's about you. So tune in, log in, share the live, tell a friend, do what you have to do.
Yeah, we're taking like 2 minutes, but not even. Like 1 minute and a half. And we're coming back with more talk. Danielle Wilson joins us. So stay tuned, guys. We're coming back right after this.
Do you have a question for us on Woman2Woman? Send in your questions on 767-245-0514 or email us at w2w.vibesradio@gmail.com. Tune in Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. to the Champion Station with Jael Joseph and Trudy Christian, only on Vibes Radio.
Didn't you know the only place to go, Vibes Radio? Silk say so.
LA Jupiter is giving you 10 days of summer. From July 21st to the 31st, get discounts on selected items each day. In the fabric store, get 20% off swimsuit fabric, sheeting, upholstery, drapery, work fabric, mats, ready-made curtains, sheet sets, mattress, and school fabric. In the hardware store, get 25% off garden, household, general hardware, bathroom accessories, small appliances, paint accessories, hand tools, outdoor and patio, sanitary ware, and kitchen. Each day is a different product, same discount. Call 448-2310 or visit us on Facebook and Instagram for more details. Come home to quality. 10 days of summer, only at LA Jupiter. What chocolate flavor are you? Are you the caramel collecting cultured, classy, sophisticated, old-fashioned lover, Cadbury chocolate has a flavor for every lover. That delectable chocolate goodness that explodes in your mouth. Heroes and Roses or Dairy Milk trays make the perfect gift sets. Cadbury drinking chocolate on Cadbury cocoa for waking up your loved ones with a cup of love. Cadbury Dairy Milk, Cadbury Chocolate Oranville bars in classic dark chocolate, and Cadbury Crunchy Picnic Toblerone Swiss Milk chocolate bars. The chocolatey flavors of Cadbury is just what you need to treat that special loved one. Share a sweet moment with Cadbury, distributed by Springfield Trading Limited.
Right now it's woman time. Hey, it's your girl Tasha P, and you're listening to Woman2Woman.
Yes. We are back. I just shared the live.
I didn't.
I did.
I'm gonna check.
Hey, Jael, I'll give you a bit for you.
Hour. I fastened the live, but I'll in quick time.
Pop up. No long story.
No long story.
Live shared.
Yes, yes. Judy, introduce Danielle first.
So Danielle Wilson is an attorney at law. She is a fairly young lawyer, a past student of mine at the Convent High School, and doing great things. Women in law, always something great to see, something good to see. And Danielle has agreed to join us this morning and to share some of her legal expertise, share some of her experience in what she's seen as it relates to legal matters involving men and custody. So, Danielle, good morning to you, and welcome to Woman2Woman.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hi, Jael.
How are you?
Good morning.
How are you doing, Danielle?
I'm good, thank you. A little breathless, but I'm good.
The steps to that studio, they're not easy, I know.
Yeah, those steps.
Work out.
Very much so. I got my morning exercise.
Danielle, it's good to have you on the show. Trudy say you're a past student, but tell her we go way back to. She always like to single them out when they are students. I said everybody's Trudy students. Oh, you know what? That says a lot about Trudy. Trudy was a very good teacher. Because
he was actually.
And what it also says is I'm getting very old. I mean,
I said I was trying to give you a compliment. You say the last time when they were there, you said you still youth, right? So I leave that alone. Welcome, Danielle. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Danielle, tell us a bit about your legal journey. I mean, you're a fairly young lawyer. How have you gotten into the legal fraternity? How do you feel like your legal journey, so to speak, has been thus far? What can you say about getting into this profession?
I will use the word interesting. So I always wanted to study law. It was never an option as to either or. I always wanted to study law.
Right.
And so went through the whole school process, fast forward. It has been very interesting. I tell people, if you're not passionate about law, don't get into the legal profession. It's a very, very demanding, stressful profession. When we first started school, they told us, oh, Law is a jealous mistress. And you wonder, but what are you talking about? And then as you get into practice, you realize it's a very, very stressful profession. It is very demanding. It's a constant learning process. So you always have to be reading, keeping abreast. And especially as a young lawyer, there's a very steep learning curve. Because you start off, you come from school and you know absolutely nothing. You know how to find what you need to know, but you know absolutely nothing. So it's a very steep learning curve. You learn new things every single day. And the more you learn is the more you realize that you don't know. But I love it. I wouldn't do anything else.
So just to follow up, have your, the older people in the legal fraternity, your peers, been instructive in helping with that learning curve? Do you feel that sort of, I guess, support in the legal fraternity?
I do. Of course, it's based on the relation, like with anything else, it's based on the relationships you build with people, and relationships in the legal profession is very, very important. But people have been very, very helpful in terms of sharing information, allowing you to use their research material, and sometimes even when you're on your feet in court and there's something that you may not know, then you know somebody will come and point out to you, okay, you do this. And law is a profession that has a lot of rules, unspoken rules in terms of like etiquette. So a lot of these things which you cannot learn at school, people do help you along the way quite a bit.
I would just love to know what one of those etiquettes are. But that's not what we're here for. Because I can only imagine. I have quite a few lawyer friends, and they share all their stories now and again. But we want to get into the gist of it this morning. We're talking men's rights. I just want you to give us a little background as to what sort of background you have in terms of knowledge on men's rights, especially as it relates to family.
Okay, so interestingly enough, one of the first, or not one of the first major case I did, which actually I did a full trial at the High Court, was a custody matter. And my client was a man. He was a gentleman seeking custody. So that was, I was thrown into the fire right away. It was within my first 6 months in practice, I think. And that was one of my first. So I did quite a bit of research. I will not claim to be an expert, but I did do quite a bit of research in that area.
I hope you won, right?
Well, depends on what is winning and losing. Without revealing too much, as I tell people, like custody is not necessarily about win or lose. It's what is in the best interest of the child. People have different opinions. Of course, it's a very emotionally charged topic. So people may have different opinions as to whether it was a win or a lose situation, but the other party was successful in gaining primary custody of the child.
So as you mentioned, primary custody, full custody, I guess. Does that refer to full custody, what we call full custody?
No, not really. So there are different types of custody. So there's full custody. Those are very extreme circumstances where the other parent is completely cut off. Very, very rare. But there's also joint custody, where the parents share the custody. So there may be 1 week here, another week here, or you spend, like, for example, the school term with one parent and the holidays with the other parent. Different arrangements. There's a wide range of arrangements that can be made dependent on the particular needs of the child or the particular circumstances of the case. But that's joint custody. So like I said, there's varying degrees.
Okay. I'm glad you're explaining that, Danielle, because like in the Caribbean, you find most children tend to remain with their mothers. Like it's not necessarily custody thing. It's almost like a cultural thing,
right,
that children tend to end up with their mothers. In the case of, and in most cases, a lot of cases that we have seen, even when it goes to court, the mothers are generally awarded full custody of children. What are the chances of men, even in Dominica, gaining custody of the child?
Well, each child custody is a very, it turns very much on the facts. So it depends. There's no formula, so to speak, of the chances of a man being granted. So there are varying factors which are taken into account. And of course, if on a balance of probabilities, the custody factors weigh more in favor of the man having custody of the child, then that is usually done. While we find women, like as you say, culturally, and even when the matter goes to court, that women are easily or easier awarded custody of children, is because, for example, okay, say for example, women are generally more nurturing. That's our role, to nurture children. And a lot of times it turns on something as simple as, although that's not the only factor, something as simple as the age of a child. So a mother may better able to meet the needs of a young child who would need that nurturing, or even, for example, say a breastfeeding child or an infant. You tend to find in those cases that custody is awarded more easily to women in those circumstances. But as I said, it turns on the facts. It may mean, for example, an older child. If you, for example, need more discipline, men are typically seen as the disciplinarians in a family. If the child maybe needs more discipline or that meets the child's particular needs at the time, then custody can be awarded to fathers in those circumstances, or primary custody.
Okay. So, and that gives me a good follow-up question. What are some of the critical things that the judge may be looking at? I mean, you mentioned discipline, you mentioned the whole concept of nurturing. What are some of the things that the judge or the magistrate is looking for to determine who would be the better custodian of that child? What are some of the things that are being looked at?
Okay, so the primary thing would be what is in the best interest of the child. That is always the main consideration of the court. What's in the best interest of the child? Now, to determine what is in the best interest of the child, the courts would generally look at certain factors. So I would have spoken to, okay, if the child is of an age where they can express their wishes, that will be the child's wishes will be taken into consideration. So say an older child, say maybe like a teenager or a 12-year-old, a preteen, that kind of age. You can express to the court, I wish to be with mommy or daddy based on certain factors. We also look at the age of the child, which I touched on earlier, the sex of the child, the ability of the parents to provide for the child's needs. So a child has certain basic needs. So educational needs, the religious needs, the physical needs. Of course, as a parent, you're responsible to provide for all of these needs. And so the court has to do an assessment, a balancing act as to what is best for the child. In terms of the physical needs of the child, there's a welfare report, which is prepared by the welfare division. So they would do a home study. They would assess the home condition, who lives in the home, how many bedrooms there are, the amenities that will be available to the child, and so on, to see how convenient an environment, how conducive it is to raising a child, if there are too many people in the home, if the child will have their own bedroom, and so on and so forth. So all these factors will be taken into account. If, for example, a child was residing primarily with one or other of the parents before, would any change in circumstance affect the child? If, for example, they were to be moved from where they ordinarily reside and to be placed in the custody of the other parents. So these are some of the things which all speak to what is in the best interest of the child.
Okay. I'm glad that you brought up the whole best interest thing, because that brings me to kind of the next question. What circumstances would a father have to would have to require in order to have a chance at gaining full custody? Because you rightfully say women are considered more the nurturing side. So let's look at the case of an infant, right? What would a father have to prove in order to convince the judge that the mother is not the best person to have full custody of the child in case of an infant or even a child at birth?
Okay, so again, and I'm going to keep stressing. And why I keep stressing that, because I don't want anybody to say, okay, this is a checklist, and on Thursday, August 6th, Danielle said you have to do X, Y, Z, and you're going to get custody of the child. So I'm going to stress again that it is dependent on the circumstances of each case. There may be little things that set off, what happens. If, for example, a mother is unfit, and that's a very high threshold to meet. But if a mother is unfit, say for example she doesn't have the best living circumstances, if she doesn't maybe have like a stable home, or she doesn't have a stable job, if she's moving from home to home, or if where she lives is not conducive, say for example it's maybe a one-bedroom apartment and the mother maybe resides with her partner, um, and there is not sufficient space for the child to stay there. If there is any sort of danger, which may there may be any danger posed to the child living with the mother. If, for example, she may have a history or struggling with drug abuse or any sort of thing that may endanger the child, could prove a mother to be unfit, and the father, or in circumstances where the father's circumstances are just better than the mother, in the sense that the father can provide a more stable environment, the father can accommodate the child physically in terms of physical space, the father is more responsible in terms of bringing the child to church and bringing the child to school and ensuring that homework is done. It's very different factors which have to be weighed, in where men would be awarded primary custody of a child.
I'm glad you brought that up. Just to follow up on that, would mental illness have some? Because I know of a case where the father was awarded, at least temporary custody of the child because the mother was going through postpartum depression at the time. So, which is a form of mental illness. I personally didn't think it was fair. I felt like that's my personal opinion, right? I felt like he should have tried to work with the mother because I saw it really spiraled her down. She ended up getting worse rather than better. And it was just something that was triggered as a result of a pregnancy. It wasn't like she didn't have a history of mental illness. So it was kind of strange that the judge did that and went down that route. But what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so what I will say is oftentimes, and you find that in a range of legal situations, oftentimes what we feel personally may not necessarily be the legal solution. So there have been situations where I may not have necessarily agreed on maybe a moral standpoint, or even on a personal standpoint with the decision, but it's what aligns with the law. Now, why I try to encourage in especially matters involving family, but more so custody, that custody is a right of the child. It is not a right of the parents, and we tend to make it very adversarial in nature, because of course it's an emotional. I mean, I don't have children, but I can only imagine that it's a very emotional process where you feel that you're going to lose your child. But if we look at it from an objective perspective, it may not necessarily align with our feelings. So I'll start by saying that. If the mental illness poses some sort of threat to the child, or the person is incapable of taking care of the child at the time, then that is a very real circumstance under which primary custody may be awarded to the father. So it's unfortunate because from a personal perspective, I may say, well, if taking her child or removing the child from her care is going to worsen her circumstance, it's very unfortunate. But you also have to balance that against the environment that the mother can provide for the child, or that if there is any danger to the child in the circumstances, which judges are in a unique position in that they've been doing that for quite a while. I'm not saying they always get it right, but they've been doing it for quite a while, where they are able to discern, their level of discernment may be a bit sharper than the ordinary man on the road, who may say, well, oh no, but I see how, in town with her children, no, that's a good mother, the children are always laughing and smiling. There may be some peculiarity which the judge observes, which may lead the judge to a particular decision in favor of one parent or the other.
Danielle, follow up on something you said. Thank you for that explanation, though, on the consideration re mental illness. But there's something else that you said that I wanted to follow up on. It was as it relates to one parent being unfit, and one of the considerations, the physical, providing the physical needs for the child. Now, oftentimes, and I always, like, I think I've said this on the show before, but I tell people I have very much in love with paternity courts, and I look at it religiously. Now, I've heard after paternity results being read, certain men say it. I'm going to get full custody. I'm going to get full custody. I'm going to file for full custody because you are unable to support the child anyway. And you always ask me for money to support this child. So I'm going to file. I've heard this. I mean, it might be just a emotional response, but I've heard a lot of men in this, after finding out that they are the father of a particular child. So my question then was, how much does that ability to provide for the physical really weigh compared to the other things that you mentioned, like the ability to nurture and to take to church and to take to school and all of that type of stuff? How much does the money? Because I know a lot of men listening are like, it's me that giving all the money anyways. You know what I mean? So how much does that money thing factor into the decision? Does it weigh more than the other thing? Is it equivalent?
It doesn't. Unfortunately not. It doesn't weigh. As I said, it depends on the circumstances of the case. So sometimes the circumstances of the mother may be so dire that even if the father is giving maintenance to the child, that the mother really still cannot afford to take care of the child. It is one of the factors that is seriously considered. So I know that is an argument of men, oh, I'm giving more money, she doesn't have a job, I'm the one who's supporting the child, or she just wants the money for herself. I think we've all heard those
she always
statements ad nauseum.
She always asking me for money.
Right. So again, maintenance, like custody of a child, access to a child, is the right of the child. So you decide, two grown people, you go and you bring a child into the world. It is your responsibility once that child is brought into the world to maintain the child. So that is not, I mean, it's easy again. It's a very emotional topic for a man to say, well, I'm the one supporting the child. Great. That is the right of the child. So it is your duty to support somebody who unwillingly, I didn't ask to be born, the child didn't ask to be born, unwillingly brought into this world. You brought me here, you made your decision, you support me. And that is essentially what it boils down to. But in terms of the weight of it, again, it depends on the particular circumstances. Sometimes the circumstances of the mother may be so grave and so dire, in the inability to support the child financially, that it may be a better decision for the child to live with the mother. But then there are other circumstances, for example, say when, okay, the mother's financial situation may not be the best, but the child is at some risk of harm or danger in the custody of the father. And so, of course, it boils down again to the welfare of the child. Can you weigh a financial, which a man is obligated, a financial obligation to the child, versus the danger or the health of a child?
I'm glad you brought up the
again. It's about.
I'm glad you're bringing up danger, because that comes to the next. What should men avoid if they're trying to get custody, or how can they somewhat state their case well enough that they're able to get custody of a child? What should they just avoid? Like, so no. I'm assuming that you shouldn't have like a criminal record, but what other factors? Probably not. Probably that doesn't even matter. What should they avoid?
Okay, so men and parents generally, or anybody who is seeking guardianship or custody of a child, should generally avoid the same things. So you wouldn't avoid anything which harms the child, any behavior which may harm the child, any company of yours which may be harmful to the child or detrimental to the well-being of the child. And again, very emotional situation. So as much as possible, avoid anything which is adversarial in nature. So if you should avoid fighting with the mother, you should avoid withholding money from the mother. If the mother if in those circumstances the mother would have custody of the child, you avoid anything which could be detrimental to the well-being of the child. Your lifestyle should also be something which is conducive to raising a child, because again, and that is not I hope I don't offend anybody or any men, because that's honestly not what I seek to do. I love to see men taking care of their children and taking care of their responsibilities and being good men in society. And there are very many men who are excellent fathers. Um, Maybe they don't get as much recognition, but there are very excellent fathers around. But so generally, because the custody tends to be awarded more to the women, men either withdraw things like maintenance, or they're not going to see the child, or you're just damaging the child. You shouldn't pretend either to say, well, for the next 6 months, although custody matters are normally dealt with expeditiously, but say for the next 6 weeks, we're going to be dealing with this custody issue. You shouldn't pretend. So if you know your lifestyle is to go out and drink with the boys on a weekend, to stay out late every night, you're not up early in the morning to take the child to school or to see about the child, or you're just not able to do so, you shouldn't pretend for that length of time. If you're making a conscious decision to change your pattern of behavior and to improve so that your environment is conducive to raising a child, that is different. But you shouldn't pretend, and parents generally should not pretend for the show of the court that you're an excellent parent, and you know to yourself it's not a lifestyle that you can maintain, it's not something that you can keep up in the long run.
So something else that, not just custody, but something else that really seems to affect men is that's what I'm getting from some of the feedback from the last show, is the whole aspect of visitation, having the right to see their children. I've heard of situations where men complain that if their relationship with the mother, who may be the primary custodian of the child, has deteriorated, that the mother is disallowing them from seeing that child, particularly if it's a very young child who doesn't have the ability to, make their own decisions in terms of seeing that parent. So I wanted to know, as it relates to men specifically and their rights for visitation, what are those rights, and what can men do if they feel that those rights to actually have time with their child, those rights are being withheld from them unjustly? What can they do?
Okay, so again, access to the child, that's what in legally it's called access to the child, what we refer to in layman's terms as visitation. Mm-hmm. Again, that is a right of the child. Okay. So the child is entitled to time spent with their parents, to be brought up by both of their parents. Mm-hmm. So what I would dissuade both parents from is, again, this creating an unhealthy environment for your child, whereby your child feels uncomfortable because you're so busy battling with the other parent that you negatively impact the child. In terms of access to the child, again, unless there is some sort of grave danger to the child, by either parent accessing the child, you or the child having access to either parent. Let me state it properly. The child having access to either parent, you are entitled to. So what you can do, in the same way you can make an application to the court for custody or for guardianship or maintenance, you can actually apply, men can actually apply to the court for access, to be granted access to the child. And of course, in some circumstances, if, for example, the mother is a difficult litigant, as in she's not willing to accept the order of the court or comply with the order of court, in certain circumstances, there are sanctions attached to the order. So if, for example, you don't do this, then this may be the repercussion. If you don't allow the man access, this may be the repercussion. Normally in access cases, unless the courts tend to encourage mediation whereby the parents meet and decide something which is mutually convenient to both parties, both parents. So you decide, okay, well, you have her on the weekend during the week, and I hear her during the week, and I'll have him on the weekend. Um, they try to do that. If not, the court can specify the times and the dates upon which a child is to be granted access to either or of the parents. But a man can definitely make an application to the court. I'll stick a pin in that though, in that we have a very high rate of what is legally called an illegitimate child, a child which is born out of wedlock. So
Okay.
it is essential. I mean, I know we've all heard the saying, mommy's baby, daddy's maybe. First, we have to establish paternity. Now, the easiest way to do that, or the main way people do that, of course, is one, well, if you're married or you are a married couple at the time the child was born, then the father, the husband, would be presumed to be the father of the child. If your name appears on the birth certificate, um, if, for example, it has been proven in a court or DNA evidence that you are the child, the father of the child. Because a lot of people and a lot of men, and I caution men, if you are certain that this is your child, you know it is your child, ensure that your name is on the birth certificate of the child. Because
I
if the
hear
child is out of
that
wedlock,
I hear
I
that
think
in court all the time.
if your name is not on the birth certificate and there is no evidence that you are the father of the child, then there can be no discussion of rights.
Right, right.
So you have to ensure that the paternity of a child is established before you can go ahead and pursue all these avenues. But once paternity is established, paternity is not in question, then you can make an application to the court at any time to be granted access to the child.
That is interesting. Daniel, just a quick follow-up. So, anytime the court order paternity test, like if somebody brings some sort of complaint, can the court order a paternity test be done in order to establish that paternity before moving forward?
Of course, the court can. So,
Okay.
if, for example, the man disputes paternity, no, I'm not that child's father, that child is not mine. The court can order a paternity test. If, for example, there are multiple men claiming paternity, which does happen, or I should say more than one. Let me not say multiple, that sounds a little bad. But if there are more than one man claiming paternity of the child, the court can order, well, no, we need to establish paternity before we go any further, so we need to do a DNA test. So yes, the court does have the power to order a paternity test.
You are not the father.
Right.
More trouble. Going to our listeners and our viewers, Rosin is saying that may be so, but that is also an excuse some men use to not visit the child. Okay, they use their own made-up negativity about the mother to just stay out of the child's life, born in wedlock or not. There is absolutely no excuse for not visiting a child. Absolutely no excuse. So I guess that is her opinion in terms of. But let me tell you, I know myself, right? And if there are women who are, because I know when to probably take it down a notch in terms of like my own arguments and thinking that I'm right about this. But some women will just not, and they'll be like, especially when the breakup was really bad, where the women will feel hurt, they might we tend to forget that it's not about us, it's about the child.
Right.
And if the father was a good father when things were gravy, then the father will continue to be a good father when things now are salty. So it's just a matter of you thinking about the best interest. And I wish a lot of us women could do that, because alienating them from their father is creating the exact society that none of us really care to live in, where kids grow up coming from quote unquote broken homes, right? And there's something called co-parenting, and I wish that women, especially, and women, we always got your back. But today, it's mostly women, I find, being the contentious one, being the one fighting it, being the one saying, I'm not going to let you see. Then when you were with so you was not thinking about that, have nothing to do with the child and the
Yeah.
well-being of the child, the best
Right.
of the child. And I feel like we need to mentally think of ways that we can co-parent in the absence of the love relationship that existed between the two parties. So
Right.
that's just my
That is definitely true. And of course, women are naturally more emotional creatures. Whether that is how we are born or that is how we are brought up, women are naturally more emotional. But we have to be careful not to affect or harm the child, because harm is not only physical harm, not to emotionally scar a child by fighting. And we encourage women, people generally, but because women are naturally more emotional and women have that thing, oh, it's my child, I carry my child for 9 months, you're not going to see a child. We have to refrain from using children as pawns. A child is not a pawn. We have to be morally responsible. We have to be mature in the sense of don't use your child. And I encourage women to stop that behavior. I mean, it's awful. I mean, I hope he doesn't get back to me for. But I have a brother and I have, a niece and a nephew. And I mean, I couldn't imagine. My brother is an excellent father. I couldn't imagine his children being withheld from him. And so I look at men in the same light that I would look at my brothers or my cousins, or the male people in my family, the males in my life. You know, if especially as you say, if a man is a good father, he has always been a good father, you've always known him to be a good father. Don't let your relationship issues creep in and say, well, we box, we're not talking today, so you're not going to see your child. I mean, that doesn't do anything, that doesn't do any good for the child. And in the long run, the child will end up resenting you for doing that.
yes, and that's the thing.
So we really, 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 really need to, as women, and I would say we, because when I have children, I don't know, when you're not a mother, you don't know. I always tell people I don't know, I don't have a child. But we need to stop this using children as pawns and to punish men. Your child cannot be a reason to punish a man because you don't do anything more. An adult can process these emotions. An adult can have a more rational thought process. A child can't. Or it's hard, I should say, it's harder for a child to process these things. So don't use your children as pawns in those circumstances.
And I like how you continue to stress that, in the eyes of the law, the decisions that are made are about the rights of the child. So that is also something, for people to, because I have gotten that as a very strong theme in everything that you've said. What's being looked at is the best interest of the child, not the best interest of mommy, daddy, the uncle is the child. So I feel that has come across very strongly. There's something that was a very big issue when we spoke about women's rights, and I'm sad that we only get into it now. But it was as it related to child support. No. So we have a few more minutes left in the discussion, and I want us to tackle that child support issue. Do women ever, or how does it work as it relates to child support and making that decision? Can women, in order to pay child support to a man for caring of the child, how does that happen?
I think I'm more interested in knowing does it happen in Dominica?
Does that happen?
Most definitely. So there are provisions in our law. So both parents are responsible for maintaining the child. And there are provisions in our law for women to maintain. So if, for example, a woman has negated her responsibility to maintain a child, a man can apply to the courts if the man has primary custody of the child. The man can, or even if they're sometimes they're living together and some people just spending their money on what they want to spend their money on, a man can apply to the court for maintenance in the same way that a woman can apply to the court for maintenance of a child.
Okay.
So women don't think you can get off scotch-free and say, well, no, I myself have my nails to do, have my hair to do, have my makeup to go and buy. So I'm not going to maintain a child. I don't have any duty. The duty is the same, not that the duty is the same equally on both men and women to maintain the child.
I'm glad that you say that because the arguments for some men might be, oh, she's spending all her money on makeup or this, you spending all, well, get her to pay some of the child support. I know of couples where they both pay the same amount, and it's like one paying, it's like they cancel all the payment. It's like you pay 200 to him, he pays 200 to you.
Yeah. So it depends. Often you find in situation where the parents live apart, you find whoever has like the care and control of the child, as in the day to day, that person tends to be awarded maintenance from the other party.
And Danielle, does it also come down to um, the financial
Ability of the parents?
the financial ability of the parent? So if there's a situation where, the woman is distinctly more financially able or she earns more, and she and the man is the even if the man is not the primary custodian of that child, can there be is there ever consideration for that in terms of the child support order against either party?
Most definitely. So if your means are more, you try to maintain a certain standard of living, especially if the parents were together at first and they've now separated. You try to maintain a similar standard of living for the child. So if the mother makes more money, then although there is a cap on how much maintenance you can be awarded. The mother can be ordered to pay child support or maintenance, which is the legal thing.
So there's a cap in Dominica, or is that a general thing?
I'm not sure for the other islands, but there is unfortunately a cap of $75 a week.
It could not be a cap though. Like my opinion, it should be based on how much you make. Because in order to maintain, if we live in like two bourgeoisie, right? And my child accustomed to bourgeoisie living, and we go our separate ways, I don't feel like $75 is going to do nothing for my bourgeoisie child. Because we're accustomed, and I'm just keeping it 100. We live in a certain lifestyle, and all of a sudden that can have a psychological effect on the child, right?
Sure. So again, the legal perspective doesn't always align with what our opinion is, but I do agree. So from a layman's perspective, I do agree that there should not be a cap. You should maintain your children, but there is a legal cap of $75 per week. That's the maximum that can be awarded. I think people, whoever has to pay the maintenance, should just be responsible, morally responsible, socially responsible. So if you know your child was used to $1,000 a month from you, and that's what you support your child, it's not because there's a cap in law that says it's only $300 per month on average that you need to withhold the extra $700 if you know that this is the standard of living your child is used to, and you can provide it. You provide it.
Yeah, I've heard men say, "Oh, she gonna get is $75 a week." Like when I was with her, I was giving her diapers. By the time you buy diapers, that's $75 a week. Right?
Exactly.
I was giving her diapers. I was giving her milk. I was giving her things. Well, that was all you want to get. I feel it's very unfair. That's my opinion, right?
But I mean that child support or maintenance fee came up the last time, and once again, I think the cap is a shocker. Every time it comes up, it's a shocker for the audience. That's $75 a week, particularly as we increase the cost of living.
Review. That needs to
be yeah. So.
And that is one of the laws that is outdated in the sense that there was a 2001, I believe, cap, so that they made that amendment. I think it started off at something like 30 way back in the day, like in 1991, about $30. Money had more value then. But that was in 2001. So 19 years on, of course, the cost of living has gone way up. So that is definitely something that ought to be reviewed.
Danielle, it's been a pleasure having you here with us on this discussion. One of the things, I have an acquaintance who got a divorce, and they were in a better situation. And what they did was they both went separate ways, and they left the children in the house. So they go back and forth. That's how they share custody. So they
Wow.
go here, 1 week there. So they spend 1 week with the kids just so that the kids' lives will not disrupted. And I want to use that example somewhat. It might not be an example that everybody can actually use, but I feel like they were definitely thinking of the best interest of the children, not uprooting them from where they were accustomed to, and they went and lived separate places, but they share that space 1 week in, 1 week out.
Well, I have to commend them. That is a very interesting arrangement. I've never heard of that before. But if it works for them and it works well and it works for the children, well, kudos to them.
Danielle, thank you so much. I see now the comments are coming in. A lot of people will shouting you out. When you go back and you look at the Woman2Woman live, you will read your comments. From Deb, from Guy, from Jessica, from Golda. So you'll check them out. So good to have had you on. It was a great discussion. And
thank you so much.
Definitely. It was awesome having you on. Take care and all the best.
Bye. Thank you and all the best to you all. Bye.
Bye.
Trudy, it's so good to see young lawyers doing this. But you know what stuff? Let me tell you, don't test them, in Dominica. They know that stuff.
When we say I introduce and I say, Jael, I just only claim.
She in the school thing again. I taught her in school.
Hey, anyway. That's the time. That's the time. Tomorrow we have a big show. We have Girl Talk tomorrow.
Yes. Tomorrow. Yes.
Yeah. So we have a guest host in the house tomorrow. So guys, make sure you tune in tomorrow. Woman2Woman, of course, same time, same place.
Yes. Until next time. I hope the men are happy. We touched you guys. We give all your whole show, right? And that we give all no fire and no quass. So we hope that you guys are happy. That we look out for you, right? And thank you very much for tuning in. Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Vibes Radio is fostering women-centered discourse and action, offering women a platform